The soul of money belongs neither to big tech nor to an anonymous ledger. The soul of money is trust. So the question becomes, which institution is best placed to generate trust? I will argue that central banks have been and continue to be the institutions best placed to provide trust in the digital age. This is also the best way to ensure an efficient and inclusive financial system to the benefit of all. These are the words of Augustine Cartens, the general manager of the Bank of International Settlements. Insane draconian laws are coming, right?
They are coming.
And these guys are at the forefront of it. As you can see, they have a lot to say. Stagnation, welcome back to the channel. Let's dive into the situation here. Very excited for this one.
Champion.
Double O,
Champion.
talk to us, sir.
Man, I tell you. People say they. Who are the they? That's the perfect example of the day. I was just on Twitter the other day saying that the FTX crash was the perfect setup for what they call trust. So now you can trust them with your money. That was the setup. Perfect setup. And he just said it right there. It's right there in your face. Like we keep telling you guys, the world is changing right there in your face. You're not seeing it and you're not pushing back. They literally just told you that they are the one that you should be trusting. They've put all the drama in place. And when they put the systems in place, it's not going to be to your advantage. It's going to be draconian.
Absolutely draconian laws. Speaking of draconian laws, right? And of course, the Bank of International Settlements. There is another institution called the FATF, right? And we know that. I mean, how else can we refer to them, man? It is the FATF. That is what they are. FATF issues draconian crypto recommendations. You have 12 months to comply. This article here is from Crypto Briefing. This is something that has been spoken about for a very long time. Bitcoin maximalists have brought this up numerous times. But, in general, people in the crypto space will look at them as mad people. And of course, and I still want to come back to this statement from Augustine Cartens here from the Bank of International Settlements, because this guy is one of those people who are definitely on that CBDC front. And his little point there, I get it. He has to have an argument for what is beneficial to him. But before we get into that, FATF, right, as you know, I'm just going to read an excerpt here and let's break this down. So the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, has issued essentially some guidelines or draconian measures, really, right, to come after crypto, right? Or how would you say? Enforcement, right, behind crypto as it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it is this. It all connects. All these organizations are connected. BIS moved the money. FATF enforces the law, right? So what FATF does, by the way, FATF was a international, it's an intergovernmental organization that was formed in 1989 to combat money laundering, right? So here comes an institution that apparently the federal government has approved to be in this role to enforce the money movement. They moved the money. BIS moved the money. And now you now have the FATF saying when you're moving the money, which one is legal, which one is illegal, which one is money laundering, which one isn't money laundering. But what we're finding out with exactly what's going on with Twitter now as well is that money laundering for some is not money laundering for everybody, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think money laundering is a very gray,
very gray area,
or has something that has it can be very gray depending on who, because your money in one jurisdiction suddenly can become money laundering when you move it to another jurisdiction. Which that is something that does not make sense to me, right? It's value earned, right? And I think that that is value that should be relevant no matter where you are. Now, here's one thing. Fat F, right? In this article here, they said the task force, right? Their new interpretations and clarifications released June 19 place substantial reporting burdens on the movement of digital assets. Notably, the provisions require digital currency operators to obtain and hold an accurate originator, which is your sender information, and required beneficiary recipient information, and submit the information to beneficiary institutions, if any. Further, countries should ensure that beneficiary institutions obtain and hold required, not necessarily accurate, that is insane, originator information and required and accurate beneficiary information. What would be the purpose of tracking everyone's transactions so aggressively?
Well, they're gonna push the CBDC. That's number one.
Hmm.
Number two, they call it AML, or trying to enforce the task of trying to figure out money laundering. Whereas the real money launderers are the big techs, the big companies. Those are not being attacked. They're attacking the usual, normal retail citizens for them to know where their transaction is going, because they say they're trying to prevent another 9/11 type event.
Well, here's one point I want to bring up. When we talk about money laundering, right? What would people call it when you have wealthy individuals across various categories of the economy having offshore accounts, right, and storing their wealth offshore to avoid paying taxes within the society which they're supposed to contribute to improve?
You're talking of account. You don't know why they get private jets and yachts?
Right. It sounds like money laundering to me.
It is.
You
That's
know?
why they buy properties everywhere.
Right.
It's another way to hide money.
Right. And things like this
That's
do
why
not
they
make
have
any
non-profits to
Right.
hide money.
things like this are just ridiculous because, I know that, generally most people in society are probably not paying attention because, they're busy trying to just go to work and make ends meet and things like that. And then suddenly they find out that they're under these laws that are extremely oppressive to them. So, if we're going to talk about money laundering and things like this, I think that these guys need to begin with changing their
Themselves.
ways,
Yeah.
and until they can do that, right, I think that all of this stuff is just absolute, like it says it there, draconian and oppressive behavior, which really is immoral if you look at it, because I do not understand why anyone would want to oppress another group of people. Well, I get why. You can keep the general society working and making money for you, so they're too busy realizing that you are stealing from them, oppressing them, and taking away from their lives. This is theft of life. You understand? So it's absolutely insane, absolutely immoral. It just, look, man, there's kind of no two ways about some things. These people are bad people. It does not make sense to be trying to enforce or propose things like this when there should be more of a general discussion with lawmakers, right, regulators, and the general public.
It's always been that old situation where we have a leaking basket, and what
Yeah.
you do is just trying to patch the holes in the basket instead of replacing the basket. But they do a pretty good job presenting a smoking mirror, making themselves look great. Oh, we are trying to prevent, another 9/11 type situation, or we don't want to impact the economy because of one person moves $1 million from one country to another, and that supposedly it's an economic risk, whereas the real economic risk is the taxation. The big tech, the big companies hide the money offshore. You know, the
Yeah.
policies that you're making, or regulatory policies that you're making that are making companies leave the country to go to other countries like China
Yeah.
to do sweatshops,
Right.
and abuse human rights. That is the problem. Not people like you and I taking $200 to go and spend in the Bahamas somewhere. Why am
Yeah.
I even saying the Bahamas?
Well,
Anyway,
it sounds to
that
me
is
like
not
that
what.
is the it sounds to me like that is the real channel of capital flight, because I like to talk about this capital flight thing, right? Capital flight is not the average person transferring their money or choosing to exit the system. I think it is more people who make huge sums of money, right? And they decide to not, oh, I don't even want to say evade taxes, because at the end of the day, if we're looking at it from a legal standpoint, the rules are written to
For them.
allow certain things to happen, right?
Yep.
So, if we're being serious about everything, all these changes that these people keep going on and on about, those are the things that need to change. But we know that it's not going to change, because with money comes power. Now, here's an interesting something here. Chainalysis, this is incredible, from Chainalysis of all people. Chainalysis says forcing onerous investment and friction into regulated virtual asset service providers, which, by the way, onerous, I had to go look up what that word means. So, onerous, hey man, it's an educational moment for all of us, man. This is why we are here, not only to educate, but to educate ourselves as well. So, we're all learning. Onerous essentially is involving an amount of effort and difficulty that is oppressive and burdensome, right? So I think we get what that is. So Chainalysis says that forcing
Step on your neck.
What's that?
Step on your neck.
Hey man, listen man, all day stepping on the necks. It's like, stop stepping on our necks. Chainalysis says forcing, or let's actually, I like that line. Chainalysis says stepping on the necks of virtual asset service providers who are critical allies to law enforcement could reduce their prevalence, drive activity to decentralized and peer-to-peer exchanges, and lead to further de-risking by financial institutions. Such measures would decrease the transparency that is currently available to law enforcement. Now, I see what this is. I see what he's saying there, and I agree. Given that we're trying to find some regulations around this whole crypto situation, but if you are exchanging value as a commodity, aka Bitcoin, would this now apply?
This is the draconian part that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So the draconian regulations would most likely impact all your altcoins out there, which a lot of people still have. They have not caught on to why Bitcoin, which is what we're doing exactly now,
Exactly.
and the real laws that is going to impact the securities, which already impact the stock markets and your fiat system. They're just going to bring it into crypto and make it even a little bit much harsh, much harder, much more on your neck.
Yes. We're going to full 10 toes straight to the neck.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. So that is absolutely insane. Now, before we wrap this one up here, I would like to go back to our friend from the BIS and his statement. I was going to say his thesis, but it's not a thesis. It's just a couple lines the guy wrote here. And I would like to have your take on this, Double O.
Yeah.
When he says that the soul of money belongs neither to big tech nor to an anonymous ledger, right? Or because my first question there is, who are you to determine where the soul of money is, right? 2, the soul of money is in trust, he says. Now, I agree with him on this. It is in trust. So the question becomes, and there has to be a question, I agree, which institution is best placed to generate trust? And he will argue that central banks are the best institution to generate trust. Now we start crossing into conflict of interest. You are the general manager of the central bank. Do you have other options? Because it seems like you're only playing for your team here.
I mean BIS for the central bank, which they're all almost the same anyway.
I mean, dude, man, all of them, they're doing the same thing. They can call it whatever they want. It's a centralized printer. You know, it's a centralized control of money. But, you know, I don't think that it is up to this guy to determine where that trust belongs, because the trust is wherever people want to put their trust in, not generated trust.
I like the way that he chose his words.
Yeah.
Some anonymous ledger. It's basically telling you that you are anonymous, like you ain't shit. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
You are not allowed to store your value in your own ledger. So you like, I work hours and hours, and I get paid in fiat, and I want to store my money somewhere, right? And you're telling me that I'm just nobody, that you have the right to own my value. That's basically what it's like, a slap in the face. Like, you know, sit down.
Exactly.
I own you. That's basically what that is. And they say, you know what? Give me your money, mother sucker. That's basically what it is. And then I tell you where to move your money. That's just a very soft way to say that.
Ugh, dude, this is rolling into some very interesting times here, man. Now, let's take a look before we close this out here, how things are shaping up across the US and across the world. Double up.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick.
Yes.
Let me put that up. States that are doing that right now. Add to stream. There's a lot of states in the US, as you know, 51 states. We're not 50
Right.
really. We're just going to run through a couple of them. We'll start with A, Alabama. License required. Now, if you are an exchange or an exchange service provider for trading crypto, now you're going to be required to have a license. And time over again, we're now seeing the requirement for licenses, which now is not going to make it more difficult for you altcoiners out there to get your crypto. But for Bitcoin, there is the peer-to-peer. It's designed to be peer-to-peer. So you need to start familiarizing yourself with peer-to-peer solutions. If at the end of the day, this Draconian laws come into play, and now you're no longer allowed to trade or own your value or own Bitcoin through the exchanges. By the way, we just found out over this week, that FTX was selling fake Bitcoins. Paper Bitcoins. We're about to find out more about Grayscale selling paper Bitcoins, but that's a different story. So be careful out there if you're on exchanges. There's also licenses now you have to obtain, different type of licenses for virtual currencies. So there's a list of them there. Over and over again, we kept seeing license number, and there are different type of them. Let's see if there's another one. Let's just keep it there for now. License requirement is the biggest.
Yeah, there is a lot of license requirements. It's clearly brewing across the nation. And I think, there might be different variations at this point in time, but eventually they all start to merge into the same thing, because there has to be a federal consensus on what are some basics on these things. So I think it's kind of like from the root, right? You slowly cultivate these various rules across and get some sort of something locked in on a state level, and then you pretty much capture everything. So,
and this is what the people have to be well concerned about, because Singapore has initiated some of the initial Draconian laws. So some of the requirements right now is that, of course, if you're going to be trading currencies, the license requirements, of course, they're over there as well. Broader areas like consumer access, who can access it,
right?
Which companies can do it. They're also talking about the technological risk about it. They're also going to be limiting the use of stablecoin. The list goes on here, or on this Singaporean thing of the different measures are going to be put in place to control it. the closure, this disclosure of everything that they just mentioned in that initial article, all the different standards of, maybe one to one. I think was it Malaysia that is saying that you must have 125% to 100%. So if you say you have what $1 million, you must have 1,250,000 in your reserve instead of a million. If you're gonna be providing stable coins, so it's gonna make it harsher for those altcoin service developers or service providers to provide their altcoins. So which is good for Bitcoin actually. That's the way I see it there.
Yeah, it is. It is good for Bitcoin. It's also good for the space because we do not need another FTX situation happening. Period. No matter how they look at it. Now, I think how it gets enforced is where it's tricky because through these things, right? Because through these things, they can also extend into other areas of violating everyone's rights. But we see that the actions that these people are taking, it's something that we've seen in history before.
Yep.
And we all know how this ends.
They did that with the alcohol. Now we're finally trying to accept marijuana. Time and time over again.
Yep.
They even did that with gold at one point, if you remember.
This is true. They did this with gold. We cannot forget that happened. And every time that they did this, you saw that what happens is that it just created an issue where people, because people are not going to stop doing what they do, right? You could look at, you could even look at, like, say, gun laws, for example.
Yep, that's another one.
Right? They are creating all these laws and creating laws and trying to enforce laws, but all they're doing is affecting people who are actually law-abiding. Because a criminal does not care about a law. That is why they're a criminal. That's the whole point of being a criminal. Like, you don't create a law and then all of a sudden.
That is not the mass of the population.
It's not the mass of the population. The exceptions do not make the rule. So, listen. Even Crypto Briefing says here in this article, rules can be engineered. Prohibition can lead to burgeoning black markets, right? Overall. And this has forced a lot of underground activity before. And we know that the more you keep oppressing people, at some point, there is going to be pushback, right?
Hey, Nigeria is a good example.
Exactly.
You ban Bitcoin.
Exactly. And it's still going to keep happening. So I think that if, in my view, I believe that it would make sense for regulators to kind of take a couple steps back, because right now there is a massive disconnect right now. These people think that they're on their home stretch. They don't even listen to anyone anymore. They do whatever they want.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to take a couple steps back, okay, and have some recalibration, some reasoning with the people, so we can align ourselves to make all these technologies work in everyone's favor.
We are not all criminals.
Exactly.
Talking of criminals, right? I was over at one of the stores. I don't want to mention their name now. Should I even give a care?
Don't.
Right? And I was wearing my hoodie and they called the police on me. Does that mean I'm a criminal if I'm wearing a hoodie?
Oh, they called the police on you while you're wearing your hoodie?
Yeah.
Well,
Dick's Sporting Goods.
listen, man. In these sort of situations, bro, I think that there's only two type of people in this world, man. There is kings, and then there is basic human beings. Kings are not scared of other human beings. Well, kings are not scared of basic human beings, I'll put it that way. But basic human beings are definitely scared. So they'll do something like call the police when they see something they do not understand. You understand what I'm saying? I told you before, man. There's this whole situation when I was in Texas, man. Like times when I'm out running in the morning, right? And I would see like yeah, not even the police, but I'll see someone else jogging down the street. They're coming in the opposite direction, right? And they'll see me and they'll cross.
Oh.
Okay, that is great. You know what I'm saying? Get the fuck out of my way.
Coming.
Yes.
STAKK Nation Lion.
Come on, man. If you see a lion coming down the street, do you stay on the same path?
You better cross.
Move there across the street, man. Move across the way. I do not share the sidewalk with peasants.
Screw, screw.
So, if people feel the need to be discriminatory, that is fine with me. Unbothered. You cannot stop us. So, listen. They had to call the police to come make sure that, hey, we'll let this king out here like this, man. Come and make sure that he's okay. That's all I gotta say. People are ridiculous. Final thoughts, sir.
As always, this has been a wonderful show.
Yeah.
If you have not liked or subscribed yet, you just want to do that right now.
Absolutely.
STAKK on YouTube, STAKK feed on Twitter. We'll be up there sending a message on a daily basis. STAKK feed, on this decentralized, if they want to call it, social platforms,
Centralized platforms.
Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
And if you want to get on the show, come on, man. Let's get on to Spotify. Let's have a conversation. We do the podcast as well.
Well, if you want to get on the show and chat with us, interview, whatever, question and answers, anything, man, shoot us a message on Twitter. And we'll set up a day and we'll have you on the show. Yeah, baby. All right. Sounds good. Until next time, STAKK Nation, thank you for watching. Brazen out.